Now, the latest in our series, The Green Rush. As marijuana legalization has swept the country, investors are seeing green. In California, new companies are scaling up operations, while some smaller businesses are fighting for survival. Economics correspondent Paul Solman has the story, part of his regular reporting, Making Sense.
So we have about 60 to 70 different strains at any given time.
At East of Eden in Salinas, California, pick your cannabis flower. Any flower, labeled by brand and THC punch.
Well, here's one, Berry OG, 29.7, so you get really high off of this, I take it.
Anything above 25 will sell out almost immediately.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Paul Henderson, formerly with Goldman Sachs, now CEO of Grupo Flor, which owns 2 dispensaries and will open 18 more within a year.
We'll do around, right now, 1.3 million a month in sales from this store alone, yeah.
And Grupo Flor isn't just retail. In a few years, the firm's become one of California's largest cannabis companies, from retail to cultivation to manufacturing and distribution. Co-founder Mike Bitar had been in commercial real estate.
And I just happened to stumble across cannabis and saw how lucrative it was and realized we should get in the business.
Were you a user?
No, I didn't see the difference between heroin, unfortunately, and marijuana.
Well, he soon did. By 2016, when Californians voted to legalize recreational adult marijuana use, Bitar and partners had already snapped up 1.5 million square feet of greenhouse space, lying fallow since the cut flower business emigrated to South America. They'd grow cannabis instead.
There might not be a larger wealth-generating opportunity that I'll see in my lifetime again. I mean, it's staggering what can be built in this industry right now.
$18 billion was invested in cannabis last year alone. And, says industry researcher John Kaguya, big-time players are moving in.
Constellation Brands, the world's largest alcohol company, and Altria, the world's largest tobacco company. But you've also seen companies like Molson Coors, Lagunitas Brewing Company, CVS and Walgreens getting into the space.
This is the green rush, chasing an estimated $350 billion in annual global sales. Kaguya thinks $1 trillion within 15 years. In Santa Barbara County, acres of white structures house some of the biggest grows in the world. Grupo Flor is rushing to keep up.
Welcome, Kendra. Kendra is our new Chief Legal Counsel.
A recent operations meeting. New employees, new dispensaries.
They're targeting this location to be the dispensary for celebrities.
And over speakerphone,
Greetings from Colombia.
new operations overseas.
We incorporated Grupo Flor Colombia in February of this year. We are also looking at Mexico, and last but not least, we're looking at Asia as well.
In Salinas, fences block the product from public view, while razor wire and guards protect the high-profit plants from thieves.
A farm like this is ever flowering. We're always cutting and always harvesting.
5 crops a year in this greenhouse, says Grupo Flor's Gavin Kogan, versus just 1 or 2 outdoors. This is one of the firm's 7 California sites.
Right now what's happening in California is aggregation. Companies are acquiring other companies, and so if we don't cultivate, we lose our supply chain, we can get crushed out.
Crushed out like Oliver Bates.
So you cultivated marijuana for 25 years, and now you're out of the business and broke?
Now I'm out of the business and broke.
Bates grew cannabis for years in the Monterey County hills near Big Sur. But with legalization came new rules and regs.
Outside investment came in and lobbied their interest and made sure that in the new regulation that only commercial greenhouses were allowed to grow cannabis.
So you cannot have an outdoor farm in Monterey County?
Yes, I've been giving away weed, all my weed. I can't say a pound of mine made it to the Grammys, and it was a big hit.
But it's not legal yet.
Not legal yet.
What are you doing for a living now?
Consulting and working for free. I'm actually not making a living right now.
So how are you surviving?
I'm broke day by day, you know, and really help from friends at this point.
Further north in Humboldt County, outdoor is okay, but it's costly. Dylan Mattoll had to run a licensing steeplechase.
We're probably into it about $100,000.
$100,000 and how much of your time?
Well, about 3 years.
Really?
Absolutely. For many people, it wasn't even possible to be compliant in the sense of dealing with the regulatory requirements for roads, water, grading, and so for some people it isn't feasible to move on.
What's more, since the 1960s, rural, rugged, way out of the way Humboldt has attracted government-leery homesteaders who grew pot illegally. To no one around here does regulation compliance come naturally.
A lot of the, as we would call them, legacy farmers here have been doing this for a long time, generations, and the culture was to keep your head down, mind your own business.
And having nothing to do with the man, right?
But having nothing to do with the man.
There are thousands of cannabis farms in Humboldt, but just a tiny fraction have been licensed.
Where this is going to end, I couldn't say quite yet, but it's a void and a vacuum that is not going to be readily filled. There is not a huge economy in Humboldt County currently outside of cannabis.
And small farmers like Matole, licensed and now growing above board, face other hurdles.
There currently still is zero banking in the cannabis industry. So imagine trying to start a small business, funding it entirely on your own without credit.
Grupo Flor's Gavin Kogan sympathizes.
This is really difficult to do. It takes a lot of capital. The regulations are heavy. We're overtaxed. And so where I really feel the pain point for small farmers is that they're having to face the obstacles we face without the capital and without the people and the business know-how to really do an effective job.
And without the cost advantages of the black market from which they've come. Nikki Lestrado's Mendocino farm is now legit, but most of her neighboring farmers aren't. And they pose as much of a threat as her corporate competitors, she says.
Right now, they're able to sell at $1,500, where we're getting, after all the expenses involved, the taxes, et cetera, and the packaging, about $900 a pound.
And if you're a seller on the black market,
You sell it on the black market, you just do like the old days. You just grow it in seclusion, hope the cops don't find you, and find a buyer, and they come right up, they pay you cash, and it's out the door.
no permits.
No permits, no licenses, no taxes. The disadvantage the black market has is, of course, like in the old days, they have to worry about the cops. They have to worry about helicopters circling overhead, getting busted.
So you're in the odd position now
Very odd.
of rooting for the helicopters.
But it's difficult, though, because, there are friends, there are neighbors, and it is what we used to do, so how can I judge them?
Back in Monterey County, where only greenhouse growing is allowed,
We're going extinct. We're really fighting to survive.
Oliver Bates lobbies to make outdoor grows legal. And what does he think of big new operations like Grupo Flor?
I am furious that they had no respect for the people that brought this to them.
The people who paid their dues?
The people that paid their dues, the people that spent their lives hiding in the bushes from helicopters, feeling like they were criminals. And for that, I'll be forever furious.
Lawyer and Grupo Flor co-founder Gavin Kogan is conflicted.
I spent most of my time as a cannabis attorney representing small growers. It affects me to be seen as a threat and somebody that is against their interests, because I don't conceive of myself that way.
But he is a threat due to the economies of scale of industrial production as prohibition comes to an end. For the PBS NewsHour, this is business and economics correspondent Paul Solman in Northern California.